Welcome to the EU-Japan 100 Cities event on climate action, organized by the Delegation of the European Union to Japan and Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES. My name is Naoki Mori, Program Director of IGES. Today is the second day of a two-day event, which we aim to contribute to the discussion on how the EU and Japan can enhance cooperation at city level in order to meet the shared goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Please let us welcome Ms. Giorgia Lambelli for her opening remarks. Ms. Lambelli is the Director of Urban Transition Mission of Mission Innovation of the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. She has over 12 years of experience in the field of climate and energy to support local and sub-regional governments in developing sound policies in response to the challenges of climate change. Ms. Lambelli joined the Global Covenant of Mayors Secretariat in 2020, where she led the work on global regional coherence and coordination across the world. We are very fortunate to have Ms. Lambelli to opening our session today. Ms. Lambelli, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Ms. Naoki Mori, and a big thank you to both the delegation of the EU in Japan and to IGES for the kind invitation to allow me to open the conversations today, this second very important day of exchange. We have already heard yesterday, both from the representative from the Ministry of Japan, but also by the colleagues from the European Commission, how we are facing an unprecedented challenge in terms of both the scale and the scope of action that is needed to tackle the global climate threats that we are facing today. So to deliver the necessary measures to decarbonize our society, as well as to increase our resilience, it is very clear that we need all hands on deck. Not only we need to raise ambition and commitment, but most of all, we must accelerate action across sectors, across level of government, and across all parts of our society. This is not only a challenge, but is also a great opportunity, an opportunity to drive forward a transformation that will influence our societies like never before. And this is true both from an environmental and economic, but also a social point of view. Local governments and cities have a key role to play in supporting, but also in leading the delivery of this transformation and in helping us together meet successfully the objectives of the Paris Agreement, both at the speed and at the scale that is required. Cities are home to more than half of the global population, but they also account for around 75% of global energy consumption. Therefore, they are essential to achieve a sustainable transition to a climate neutral, but also a resilient world. As the closest level to citizens, they are not only administrators, they lead by example, they are providers of key services to the community, but they also are catalyzers of action and key drivers of innovation. And we will have the opportunity to hear much more about how cities help to shape the future of their community through social, financial, and technological innovation, even today. So for cities and local governments to be able to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable energy for their community, including, of course, the most vulnerable part of this population, it is essential to consider that this is not just a goal about decarbonization, but these actions that they are taking, they are all key indicators that are marking a clear threshold for quality of life. So more efficient energy buildings do not mean just cutting emission, but it means access to cleaner energy, safer living conditions, healthier occupants. Less energy demands helps address and reduce the risk of impacts of energy poverty. And when we talk about improving our mobility, tackling all the challenges around unsustainable ways that we are moving and using our transport, this means also impacting on poorer quality, increasing and improving impacts on health, but also the people, through unsustainable mobility, are not able to access jobs, schools, and essential services like hospitals in a reasonable amount of time. Similarly, lack of access to modern electricity, which unfortunately still affects 13% of the global population, can also directly impact on both jobs and education. Because of their key role, cities are at a critical juncture right now to leverage the momentum that we have to reduce energy demand and to further develop and scale up more innovative and sustainable solutions. The good news is that cities and local governments are aware of this, and they've already been spearheading this process. They have been setting bold renewable energy targets, net zero targets, while also creating healthier and more livable urban environments by transforming their community with renewable energy. The 12,800 cities that have already joined the Global Covenant of Mayors have committed voluntarily to ambitious climate action. And they are a clear example of how cities are willing to do the work on the ground. And this is very timely, as CO2 emissions from global fossil fuel consumption and combustion saw a record rise in 2021. And already yesterday, I've heard some very tangible examples of these commitments and action being put into place. We have heard how cities like Kyoto are bringing together their past, their historic heritage, with a future that is sustainable and renewable. We have heard how cities are bringing together science-based evidence to create informed policy making. They're trying to serve also the most vulnerable, and Zagreb shared their view and the activities and the programs that they are shaping in their energy policy and infrastructure to support the most vulnerable low-income households with their programs. We have also heard cities like Umea, how they are innovating by helping breaking the schemes, thinking outside of the box, driving change and asking critical questions, while also embedding gender into all sustainability-related policymaking. But cities, unfortunately, cannot achieve these goals alone. The partnership between the national government, local governments, business sector, stakeholders, and civil society are not only essential, but also urgent to achieve this transition to a net zero future. Cities are unfortunately still facing critical challenges, and today we will have the chance to discuss some of these challenges, but also some of the solutions put in place. But to just name a few, of course, we have now an opportunity for an effective and an efficient transition to more accessible and actionable science. But this is needed, of course. We need data. We need to be able to use this science in order to roll out sustainable responses to inform local policymaking. Data needs to be shared at the city scales to build integrated adaptation and meaningful mitigation planning. This information, this data, the evidence needs to be made available for end users such as urban planners, but also decision makers and citizens and the general public. We need them on board while we are striving to create climate neutral future for our community. We also need, of course, to increase access to finance. This is a key challenge the cities are still facing. The impact and the value of both social and environmental returns on investment and the importance of the co-benefits of climate action and decarbonization need to be better taken into account when we are discussing our investment plan. And these plans need also to be better aligned across different sectors, across different levels of government. They need to be co-developed so that we can really put our efforts, our resources, our investment where they are most needed. Cities, of course, also need to be able to continue learning from one another, from both successes, mistakes, and exchanging and collaborating to inspire among peers, inspire one another to help reach together the goal of a more resilient, climate neutral world. And opportunities like today are critical to make sure that this is happening. With all of this consideration as a backdrop, the Urban Transition Mission that I have the pleasure to direct is mobilizing decision makers across all levels of government to prioritize net zero pathways, enabling clean energy and systemic innovation across all sectors and across urban governance. We as Urban Transition Mission want to do this and achieve this by fostering capacity building and helping to close the gap between research, development, and deployment, and in particular by empowering cities across the globe to adopt innovative solutions, mobilizing their commitment, knowledge, ambition to also help reach this tipping point in cost and scale of these innovative solutions. As you heard yesterday from Mr. Froissart from the European Commission, to do so, the urban transition will work with a cohort of 48 ambitious cities across the world. These cities selected already in November count among their group. We have the pleasure to have among our group already the Japanese city of Tokorozawa, but also Turku, from which you heard yesterday, and Valencia, from which you will be hearing from today. These cities will be working together with us and with our Global Innovation Alliance of partners to demonstrate integrated pathway for a much needed holistic people-centered transition. But this is only the beginning. We want to engage a further cohort of 250 more cities already from this year to validate, to strengthen these pathways and to inspire more and more cities across the world to integrate and to embark together with us on a journey toward decarbonization. So on behalf of the three co-leads of the Urban Transition Mission, the Global Covenant of Mayors, the European Commission, and the Joint Programming Initiative of the European Union, I would like to conclude by warmly inviting you to engage with us, with the Urban Transition Mission, to join our cohort of cities, but also to help spearhead partnerships with your work, everyday work, across levels of government, across sector, and walk the talk of how we can implement sustainable urban transitions to a net zero and resilient world for an equitable future altogether. I want to thank you very much for your attention, for the opportunity to address you today, and I wish you a fantastic and fruitful discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zambelli, for your very encouraging opening remarks. Thank you. Now, let us start discussions. Allow me to welcome the moderator, Ms. Terry Schultz, whose excellent facilitation helped us very interesting discussions yesterday. And so I'd like to invite Terry. Terry, I hand over the mic to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mori. And yes, indeed, we did have a really excellent day yesterday. I'm welcoming our online audience to our 100 Cities event. And if Ms. Rambelli's ambitions are fulfilled, soon we'll be having a 350 cities event and then a 500 cities event. So this is very exciting. And I'm very pleased to share today that our online audience will be able to participate and interact with our speakers. We'll be taking questions from the audience after our panelists give their presentation. So you can find down on the bottom of your screen a Q&A function. On my screen, this is under More. So if you need to click on that to find how you can submit your questions, we're very excited to see what our online audience wants to know from our excellent speakers today. And you can also upvote each other's questions and have discussions there in the chat as well. So a very interactive day today. And now let's move right on to our panel. And it is about smart cities and innovation. As we all have heard many, many times, and we all know, innovation is the key to achieving carbon neutrality goals. And cities are excellent incubators for creative approaches to contributing not only to those carbon neutral goals and decarbonization, but of course, they also have to care for the local economy and the quality of life for their citizens. So today we're going to learn from some of those cities already succeeding in those goals. Our first speaker is Mr. Kei Onoue. He is the Chief of Decarbonized Society Promotion Division in the Environmental Bureau for Nagoya City. Mr. Onoue, we understand that Nagoya City started developing its low carbon model districts around 2015, which is quite a while ago, before this initiative even. Is it correct to say that your experience with those model districts were the basis for the all renewable energy grid that you're now planning and that you're going to talk about today?
Thank you. I am Onoue of Decarbonized City Promotion Division, Nagoya City. It is very nice to Zoom meet you all. As mentioned already, before the model leading region, we have started leading low carbon area since 2015. Without further ado, let me share my screen with you. One moment. And let me also take off my facial mask. Is it okay? Can you see the screen? Thank you. Let me start my presentation. I am Kei Onoue, Decarbonized Society Promotion Division, Environmental Bureau of Nagoya City. Thank you very much for giving me such an honorable opportunity. Now, I will discuss cities' efforts to achieve decarbonized society with a special focus on DLAs. Now, on the left is Hachimaru-kun, the mascot of Nagoya City, and on the right is Jun-chan, the killer whale, the mascot of the Environmental Bureau. On the occasion of this opportunity, I wanted to introduce them to you anyway. First of all, let me share with you the overview of Nagoya City. The city is located at the center of the Japanese archipelago, and Nagoya is the third largest city in Japan after Tokyo and Osaka. Aichi is also home to automobile and other industrial sectors. As you can see in the maps, Nagoya Castle, Higashiyama Zoo, as well as Nagoya Station. I'm sorry, let me go back. Nagoya Station and Sakai area that is home to cultural attractions. The city has lots of charm and potentialities. The population is approximately 2.32 million with an area space of 326 square kilometers. It has a relatively mild weather, but it can be very stuffy, often exceeding 70% in humidity during summer. Now, let me discuss the DLAs, or decarbonization leading areas in Nagoya. Minato Akurus is the name of the DLAs. One of Japanese gas companies, Toho Gas, is now redeveloping the area. It has a space of 33 hectares, and it also has a very good access to subway stations. On the west is the tributaries of the Nakagawa Canal. From the left bottom, you can see the shopping mall, and on the right corner is the residential units. At the center, on the left, is the energy control center that oversees the entire region, and it also has LP gas eco station. Next slide, please. Toho Gas, since 2015, has been redeveloping Minato Arcus. Sustainable development of the region and the society that can coexist with the nature has been worked on with this redevelopment project. With efficient energy management system, heat and electricity is being centralized and managed by the energy center that I have just mentioned. Adjacent to the redevelopment area is the City Hall, which is also being fed with the electricity that is being generated in this area. So low carbon city planning is positioned as a model region for the people in the city. Back in 2015, Nagoya City has designated its Aku City as the model region of low carbon lifestyle. Next slide, please. At this area, lower decarbonization has been promoted. With the government's announcement of the higher ambitions, we have decided to work towards carbon neutrality to achieve decarbonization, to have a positive repercussions in adjacent areas. Minato Axel has several strengths because it has a concentration of different urban functions, and it has been selected as a suitable place to be designated as this area. A joint endeavor with Toho Gas, as well as the decarbonization compact city concept, has been designated by the Ministry of the Environment last year. From now on, let me discuss CO2 decarbonization initiatives in Nagoya City. Distributed renewables network is being built. On the left, the smallest circle is where Minato Axel is located. Carbon neutral gas and hydrogen-based distributed renewables are being secured. There are other initiatives. For example, renewables from other areas of Nagoya City will be fed in to stabilize the grid. At the same time, we rely on aggregators to optimize the operation of the grid, and syncing with the energy grid, we are working towards a more efficient demand control. Next slide, please. Carbon neutral gas and hydrogen-based smart grid and also energy transition, as well as conversion, is written on this slide. We are currently working towards decarbonization of electricity and heat. With the pipeline, hydrogen will be fed into this area, and because we position hydrogen as an important source of energy in this area. And this is my very last slide. There are many other initiatives. One of the problems of this area is that we have a higher dependency on car use. We incentivize for people to shift to public transportation use, at the same time promoting the park and ride projects with the provision of car parking areas. Also, EV as well as FCV car sharing programs are being promoted as well. Shopping center, sports centers are also positioned as areas for the users to come to, as well as to reduce the emissions. Waste within area is being used as a source of waste power, so that the circular economy of agriculture and food production can be achieved within this area. This is how we are currently planning to start a positive decarbonization domino effect from Nagoya City. Thank you very much for your close attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Onoue. And our next speaker is Mr. Osamu Kanda. He's the supervisor in the Futuristic City Promotion Division in the Urban Strategy Department for Saitama City. He's going to be talking to us about their initiatives for achieving carbon neutral smart home communities connected by a microgrid. Now, Mr. Kanda, I understand that it was the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami that really set you on the path toward these developments. Please explain to us how you did that. And if I just might make one note before he starts speaking, I understand that some people are only listening to the Japanese, and there is an interpretation button at the bottom for English. I'm very sorry I didn't mention that today right at the top of our beginning here. So you can find English or Japanese interpretation, whichever you need, at the bottom of your screen.
Thank you very much. I am Kanda from Saitama City. Today, I'd like to talk about the smart home community that we have. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak today. I received a question from you, so let me respond first. Saitama City in 2011 is the greatest earthquake. We had go through planned power outages. For the city people to have sustainable life, we wanted to make the best use of the experience, and we are determined to never repeat it before. We said we needed to strengthen our resilience. That is the reason why we decided to start to engage in smart home community. Let me now move on to my presentation. Let me introduce to you the city of Saitama first. Saitama City is located adjacent to Tokyo area. We have 1.4 million population, and you're looking at the photo of the city of Saitama. And we have housing areas. But as you can also see from this picture, you see a lot of rice paddies, but in the middle you find tall buildings, which are these. In other words, right next to the housing area, there is a huge lot of natural land left, so we value our nature very much. Now, I will talk more about the smart home community. Land rezoning enabled us to have new cities. With rezoning, we created cities, and these are the concepts we have based our development on: energy security, community development. Those have been the main axes as we promoted our urban creation. As a result, although the entire country of Japan is undergoing decline in population, our area has been very popular, and all the homes have been sold out immediately after they're built. Now, more recently, we have seen climate changes, and we suffered much damages from wind and rain. With typhoon, the electricity poles fell down. Here's a photo. In Japan, we have not put our power lines underground yet. However, with climate changes, we now need to prevent those disasters in advance. So in the new areas that we have developed, we have put the power lines underground. This is not happening much in Japan, but in order to reduce the cost of this work, we decided to put those lines under the common space where people can walk around. The lines buried underneath, and this will reduce the cost of putting powers underwater. And also, when it comes to the natural disasters, we can prevent power lines from being cut or the poles or towers falling down. Now, I will talk about the most important part of my presentation. Now, in this housing area, we have more than 50 houses built, and all of them have solar panels set on their houses. Electricity generated are sent to the power transformer area. It's all collected there. And then from this facility, the electricity is supplied to all the homes, and whatever are in excess are stored in the battery, which is here. Now, the solar panels, batteries, and the other construction expenses, they're all covered by the electricity companies. And they manage and operate all the facilities. In other words, the residents here, when they purchase their homes, they do not have to pay for the construction of new facilities, but they pay as through electricity bills. The slide shows the hot water tank. One of the issues of photovoltaic power is that oftentimes demand and supply do not meet. However, in this area, when we expect or they expect excess of electricity, they heat water to have hot water. So whenever there is excess of electricity, they could put the electricity into a battery or heat water in advance. And whenever there is a natural disaster, they use electricity and gas for hot water, for warming water, or heating the water rather. And here's another slide, and this is to explain the pricing for the electricity. In this housing area, dynamic pricing scheme is introduced. When the solar power is in power generation, people can use electricity at a very low cost. On the other hand, during the time without sun power, the price is higher. So all the residents, you live on renewable energy. Therefore, their awareness about climate issues become higher among the residents here. Now, in this housing area, the solar panels are used for power generation, and about 60% of all the electricity is covered by renewable energies. And whatever is insufficient, they use the FIT system so that the electricity without generating CO2 is used, so that in this area 100% decarbonization is achieved. This is my last slide, and it shows that in this housing area there are 51 homes. They are connected with a local grid by their own line, and even when there's no supply from the commercial nets, for a certain time they can maintain electricity from the solar power and battery. Of course, at the time of power outage, they cannot use this what is inside, but they can reduce the supply of electricity so that people will be able to use the electricity. And during the longest time, when the sun is out and the load is light, for about 2 hours or 2 days worth of electricity is available. However, when the solar radiation level is low, they will be able to have electricity for 6 hours, and that's it for me. Once again, thank you very much for giving me this precious opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Konda. Our next speaker is Ms. Elena D'Ambrosio, the head of Smart City and EC Projects Unit in the Innovation Department for the City of Torino. Now, Ms. D'Ambrosio, we understand that Torino is considered a hub for experimentation and innovation in the climate field. So we're very much looking forward to hearing about how you achieve that status. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you all. I confirm, and I just tried to share the screen to show how we try to do this in Torino since a while. I hope that you can see the screen indeed.
We can see it.
Yeah, so indeed, since 2018, the city of Torino decided to take the challenge of co-developing innovation also in the area of climate neutrality and clean air and technologies through a dedicated approach. So we decided to offer Torino as an open laboratory, big as the city, with the idea to be a partner of innovation, also of green innovation. So with the idea to offer itself and its asset to test breakthrough solutions, also clean tech solutions in any domain of public interest to shape the city of the future. Since 2018, we concentrated on some specific frontier technologies like cooperative, connected and autonomous vehicles, drone-based innovative services, also in the area of environmental monitoring, for instance, and a wide use of 5G-enabled technologies such as IoT, AI, robotics, blockchain, and of course, all what is concerned by clean tech and smart life solutions. What we offer and what we aim to do with the Torino City Lab is really to become an enabler within the territory, within the ecosystem, and as a partner of innovations. That's why we offer the whole city area and its assets for finding common solutions among R&D actors and businesses to our challenges also in the area of environment. And to do this, we act as a single internal contact point towards all the city department concerned, and also towards public utilities and all local key actors. And of course, we offer all municipal intangibles to help in solving these challenges. So people first, processes, services, and data. But the most powerful tool of Torino City Lab is its partnership. So Torino City Lab is supported by a huge ecosystem of more than 90 partners, which help us really find breakthrough solutions to our urban challenges. And this partnership is made up of several categories of partners. So corporate partners, which put at disposal its networks, its knowledge, its technologies. Public utilities, which are the actors that manage public services. R&D actors, which put at disposal their knowledge and help us in also evaluating the impact and performance of solutions. And finally, communication and international scaling partner to offer to businesses and R&D actors involved to scale their solution also outside Torino, Italy, and Europe, and even the world. So from 2018 onwards, we have involved more actively in testing activities on the ground, more than 100 companies, and we have activated several sectoral labs, for instance, a lab about IoT solutions to monitor environmental variables for urban quality, a dedicated lab about sharing and circular economy solutions, another one about learning technologies, several initiatives and strategic partnership, which helped us really co-develop solutions, mainly in the area of smart mobility, smart living. We also have offered dedicated stress test areas for some specific technologies. That's why we have the so-called smart road circuit for connected, cooperative, and automated vehicles, and the testing area for urban air mobility. And since 2021, thanks to a national funding, we managed also from one side to give a house to Torino City Lab, and we launched Turing House of Emerging Technologies, and we also enlarged the scope of Torino City Lab, which also now can promote acceleration of startups and transfer tech towards SMEs in the wide area of 5G and emerging technologies for some important vertical for Torino, like smart mobility and innovative urban services. But we are always in the move. That's why after adhering to the European challenge about 100 climate neutral cities, we decided to regreen Torino City Lab, which from now onwards will work as an important tool to achieve this important challenge. So with the idea to promote the paradigm of smart life, and with the aim to contribute to the ecological and digital transition of the territory, and to improve in this sense the services to the citizens. That's why the new reframe priorities are ecological transition, smart life, smart and green mobility, and culture and education. We do not begin from zero, because as said, since 2018, we had a bunch of good projects and solutions co-developing with the public and private actors in the field on green technologies. So for instance, we have an ongoing living lab about nature-based solutions, where, for instance, we have developed the community aquaponic systems, green walls and rules, or for instance, new regenerated soil well for urban agriculture also. Or we have co-developed solutions with the aim to create air monitoring network with the low-cost sensors in Torino, or to promote mobile and predictive charging delivery service through thought for the user of electric vehicles. So we are on the go. If possible, I still have a very brief video to give you a sense of what is going on in Torino. I try to display it. Okay. That's from the really beginning of Torino City Lab. This is what Torino City Lab has been, testing of technologies, a lot of testing contracts signed, 3 open thematic labs, our stress test areas, the priority technologies, our testing activities ongoing, and what will be. Torino City Lab at the service of citizens, with the aim to promote sustainable, green mobility as a service, smart life solutions, okay, I see some problems with the video, but it was just to give you a real sentiment about what is going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. D'Ambrosio. It's running now. They're just on the screen, but we are running a little bit behind schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next speaker, Mr. Jordi Perez Blanes. He's the coordinator of urban strategies for Valencia, Spain. And we understand that Valencia has been appointed the European Green Capital for 2024. So congratulations are in order. And we're very interested to hear how you achieved this award, Mr. Blanes. And I would also like to remind everyone that after this presentation, we will be taking questions from the audience. So post them there in the chat box. Mr. Blanes, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Terry, and thank you very much to the organizers for inviting us to be here. It's a real honor for us to participate in this forum, in this dialogue between European and Japanese cities which I think is absolutely enriching for all. Well, I'm going to present an overview of what we are doing in Valencia from a global perspective on how we are addressing the mission that we defined a couple of years ago, which has been called our climate mission Valencia 2030. It's part of our urban strategy, because we started to develop our urban strategy Valencia 2030. And the differential element of the key, or one of the key elements of this strategy, is that it's a strategy which incorporates this mission-oriented approach to develop it. So it's focused on climate change, and it's part of our project, which is part of the 100 cities that the European Commission want to be climate neutral for 2030. Just to let you see what is going on in Valencia, I have to say that yes, we have been selected as the European Green Capital for 2030, and we have been also selected as one of the 3 front-runner cities in the European Capital of Innovation. That's the 2 elements that for us are really important: the sustainability of the green city model and the innovation-oriented approach to solve all these climate challenges we are facing. And from this perspective, we engaged in the development of our urban strategy, in which we incorporated 3 assumptions. The first one is that in order to promote all the transformations that we needed in the city, we needed to align all our strategies and all our projects to well-established and legitimized goals that were agreed at a national and international level. And that's the reason why we work with the perspective of the SDGs and the urban agenda. We have a Spanish urban agenda in which 10 key challenges for cities have been defined. So we use them as the main reference for us in order to align our public policies. But when it comes to address the climate challenges, we thought that the challenges were so ambitious, and we were in a truly climate emergency. We needed to accelerate all the transformations, and we needed to incorporate new approaches into the way of doing policies. So our second assumption to address this climate mission was that we needed to learn. We needed to incorporate innovation, experimentation, failing, and learning to accelerate our urban sustainability transitions. And that's why we incorporated the mission-oriented innovation into the core logic of our urban strategy. That way we have what we call the 2 sides of the same coin. On one side, we have the urban agenda that enable us to boost courageous policies for urban transformations. And these policies have their correlations with the innovation policies, which has this mission-oriented approach. And additionally, we were working on all of this, and we met the pandemic, etc., and also all the recovery and transformations plan at European level, which we try to link, or we are linking with our urban strategy in order to get additional resources for urban transformation in Valencia. That way we have defined a 10-year city model for our city with the collective purpose of becoming climate neutral for 2030. And we are facing many different challenges, but I would like to mention just a few of them in the minutes I have left. The first one is the need to break silos in our public administration organization. As we know that the mission, the climate mission for Valencia and our urban strategy is a really cross-cutting and holistic approach developing urban policies. And in that sense, it's a very innovative policy instrument for us. So we have defined all these elements of how to link and interlink all the public policies to align them with our climate mission. And that way we have defined all the elements that you have here on the slide: the mobility and transport sector, the energy, the economic industry, renaturalization, housing, urbanism, etc. And we address them in a cross-cutting way with another crucial elements for us, which are civic engagement, fair social transitions, alliances and networks, policy and finance and law, etc., in order to bring them all together with this common purpose of developing our climate mission. I think this is one of the key challenges that public administrations are facing in order to address a holistic challenge, such a mission, in the conditions that we have now in the public organizations. The second element that we are working quite hard regarding our climate mission is this one of making a big city alliance in order to bring all kinds of stakeholders in mission project. We have worked to build a strong political consensus. We agreed and we made the decisions to go for this climate mission with an overall support of all the main political parties in the city. We have also agreements with the national and regional governments. We have defined the mission's ambassadors entities, which are very different kind of entities that support the mission, and we are developing new forms of governance and additional elements. We are also, and this is very important, establishing and developing new instruments for enabling innovation to happen in the city. We are developing new ways of co-governance. We are working on public innovation procurement in order to let our companies to provide us with solutions with the problems we have not already, that we don't know how to solve currently. We are developing also the living labs. We are defining the constellations of projects that are involved in the mission, etc., etc. And we are also making a great effort in communicating all of this to the citizenship, just to let them know that this is the project for their city in the coming years. Because what we aim is to make Valencia a more livable and lovable place for all. And that's the project in which we are embraced in relation to this mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blanes. And we are now going to move into the question and answer session. Now, our first question that came in was addressed to Mr. Konda. And the question from Yavor Razboynikov was, and I found this also very interesting, was whether people who have photovoltaic panels on their roofs don't actually own the electricity that's being produced in Saitama. So although you've already answered this online, Mr. Konda, I would like to also address this orally, because I think it's a really basic point on how your system works. So if you could please take that question.
Thank you for your question. Now, in our project, we have a PV module, and the electric facilities are owned and operated by the electric appliance company. All the power generated belong to the company, and the residents do have the solar panels on their rooftop, but they have to pay money to purchase the electricity generated from their rooftop. Now, why do we have this? Well, this is the payment. If the housing cost include all these facilities, the houses become very expensive. Therefore, it was decided that the power generation facilities will be owned by the electric companies, and for safe operations, they will operate and manage with their skills. That's the reason why.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone else have anything to contribute on that? I'm not sure if Nagoya City perhaps or any other city has a different arrangement for how the electricity generated by people's homes is distributed. No, so that seems to be the general model. Now I will take the next question that has the most upvotes. And this is from Anupam Pandey. And the question is, apart from administrative efforts, what are the key initiatives on your side to ensure maximum citizen participation? Who would like to talk about that? Mr. Blanes, you're nodding. Would you like to take that question?
Yeah, maybe. For us, the involvement of citizenship and on the involvement of citizenship and all the civic society and companies, etc., is the key element for the success of the mission. And what we have defined is our city alliance, in which we have agreed with what we call our mission ambassadors, what are their commitments to contribute to the climate mission. They sign a preliminary agreement, and then they will join our contract, our climate city contract, in which we will define their specific commitments to the climate mission. And for instance, we have many different areas in which this is really important. The area of logistics and transport of goods within the city, for instance, is very important. The area of food and supermarkets and so on is really, really important for us also, and many others in which all very different private stakeholders are aiming to contribute to this climate urban mission.
Thank you, Whit. Would anyone else like to come in on that with some of their tips on maximizing citizen participation?
Yeah, I add something. Of course, this is an important issue also from us, both at Torino City Lab and other city initiatives. The aim is really to have a community-based living labs where people become not only users, but co-developers of the solutions to their problems. That's why some examples like the living lab on nature-based solutions is really made up with the citizens and with associations, which are really the protagonists of the innovation. And another tool which has some experience in Torino is the issue of management of public goods. So we have regulations which allows to citizens to propose regeneration actions and take care of public goods and propose their also green regeneration.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very interesting. To our audience, please upvote the questions you would like us to answer. We have about 3 more minutes to the top of the hour. I'm going to take a question in Japanese to our panelists. If any cities in Europe have specifically integrated the strengthening of green and blue infrastructure into their global warming strategies, please share that information. Do any of our panelists have an answer to that question? Okay, I don't see any takers. Okay, good.
So in Torino, we have a green resilience plan, of course, where green infrastructures are part of our strategies, and it will be, it is a public plan we can share, and it will be one of the pillars of our climate city contract also in this area of 100 climate neutral cities.
Yeah, in Valencia, we have 2 specific, very important projects. One of them is related to all the coastal recovery, which is related to also using green infrastructure and nature-based solutions in order to gain resilience of the coast. And the other project is related to the renaturalization of a big infrastructure that was built in the 70s for redirecting the river basin, because we had a previous flooding in the city, and then it was deviated through a very big infrastructure, a green infrastructure. And then we are planning to renaturalize it also using infrastructure and nature-based solution. So we have these two specific projects which are really linked to this issue of resilience of the city. And that we
Mr.
also
Onoue,
include in our climate contract. Sorry.
It's okay. Mr. Onoue or Mr. Kanda, would you like to add anything to this? Well, then I have another question voted specifically for Mr. Kanda again, and we'll make this a quick one because we need to move on to our next panel. Isabel Wetzel asks, how can a model of using renewable energy, solar panels or batteries, be scaled beyond one neighborhood? Does Saitama have a plan like this, and how can other cities learn from your practice?
Thank you for your question. This is the model for a local grid. This is for 51 houses only. And as for the impact on neighborhood, we have very limited neighborhood because it stands on its own with 51 homes. However, within the Saitama city or in other parts of Japan, we would like to introduce this community system. So through the opportunities like what we are having today, we would like to communicate our ideas broadly.
Thank you very much. Flattering for us, and certainly the interest in your presentation makes clear that our event today is working to do that. Thank you very much to all of my panelists for your very interesting presentations and your audience interaction. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you'll stick with us for the rest of the program. Okay, we will.
Thank you very much.
We'll now be moving on to our next presentation, Decarbonization Efforts Beyond Administrative Boundaries, which is something that we just discussed with Mr. Kanda. We are now going to hear from Dr. Kazuaki Takahashi, the Executive Director for Planning and the Planning and Coordination Department at the Climate Change Policy Headquarters in the city of Yokohama. Mr. Takahashi, what led you to conclude a partnership to secure renewable energy from distant rural regions in the northeast of Yokohama?
I like to explain about the situation, but now we have very small space in a city, so we have limited capacity for the renewable energy. So we now try to cooperate with other cities which has a huge amount of renewable energy possibility. Can I start?
Please go ahead with your presentation.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm Takahashi from Executive Director for Climate Change Policy Headquarters, City of Yokohama. And today I introduced my actions towards a zero carbon city. Here's some basic information about City of Yokohama. As you can see, Yokohama is located west side of Tokyo and is a city with the largest population in Japan. This population is as much as Uruguay and Mongolia. And you can see that we have so huge population and has various characteristics in our city. This graph below shows the trend of greenhouse gas emission. City of Yokohama can reduce the emission gradually, but the GHG emission from household has been stable, and it is one of the big issues for tackling with climate change. Political leadership boosted the level of GHG emission reduction in Japan. In October 2020, our Prime Minister declared carbon neutral by 2050. And the revised plan for countermeasures on global warming was approved by the Cabinet on October 22, 2021, with a target of 46% reduction by 2030 compared to 2013. In accordance with national action for accelerating our measures against climate change, our mayor announced the target of 50% reduction by 2030 compared to 2013. followed by the target revision of Yokohama City Action Plan for global warming countermeasures has been under discussion, and finally, it will be revised tomorrow. Now I'd like to show some examples of our climate action. For achieving carbon neutral society, Ministry of the Environment, Japan aims to designate decarbonization leading areas. Decarbonization leading areas aim to achieve net zero carbon dioxide emission from electricity consumption in households and business sectors by 2030. In addition, they make efforts to achieve reductions in other greenhouse gas emissions, such as from transportation and heat use, by utilizing local characteristics, which is consistent with Japan 2030 targets. Minato Mirai area, which is located close to City Hall, are selected as one of the decarbonization leading areas. There, we aim to build a model of decarbonization in urban area with public-private partnership. Here shows another example of our actions, which is about the inter-regional cooperation effort, as I explained at the beginning. Since Yokohama has huge population and does not have much open space, it is difficult to generate a large amount of renewable energy. We estimate it is possible to generate only 10% of our consumption in Yokohama. That's why we signed agreements with 15 municipalities in Tohoku and Kanto region, northeast side region of Japan, which has a high potential of renewable energy. Under the agreements, we would like to cooperate together with application of circulating and ecological sphere concepts. For example, regarding this cooperation, food and product fair has been conducted. This year, we just held the fair yesterday and today with participation of 15 municipalities at our city hall here, which has allowed to connect each municipality. And last year, we have started new program to innovate and spread attractive lifestyle under carbon neutral society. To reduce life cycle GHG emissions, new lifestyle is necessary for various sectors such as fashion, food, house, movement, consumer goods, leisure, and energy. And spread new lifestyle, we believe that it should deliver not only carbon neutral, but attractive future. Under these views, Yokohama is trying to innovate business and local model related to sustainable and pioneer lifestyle. For this innovation, we will utilize digital technology, which can share various goods and assist us activity, and local communities, which has been the basis of Japanese society for a long time. At this program, we would like to integrate carbon neutral society, sound material cycle society, and harmony with nature and sustainable development. Cooperation with overseas cities and international networks is also important. Yokohama is a member of several international networks, as shown in this slide. We share knowledge and lessons from other cities and participate in international conferences such as COP to strengthen bilateral and multilateral networks. To summarize, Yokohama has focused on decarbonization and will accelerate it. We hope to work together to make carbon neutrality true with synergies between the Paris Agreement and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Takahashi. And now I am going to hand the floor over to Mr. Mori.
Thank you very much. All speakers in the panel 3, and also the presentation by Mr. Takahashi from Yokohama City. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation and discussions. And Terry, thank you for your facilitation. We are a little bit, good in progress, and then we are going to have some break from now. Short break, the break about 20 minutes from now. And next session, named Financing Decarbonization Efforts at the Local Level, will be start at the Central European Time, 10:35 a.m. or Japanese time, 6:35 p.m. So I hope you can enjoy your break for a while and then come back to the next session in time. Thank you very much for your participation and cooperation. Let's start the session. Oh, Terry, could you start the panel, please?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I hope everyone had a nice break and coming back energized for the final portion of our event. We are moving into panel 4 now, financing decarbonization initiatives at the local level. Now, we've heard about this for 2 days, how important this is. And so we're going to hear more now about how this is working, cooperation between local government and financial institutions. It's absolutely essential to mobilize more funds for decarbonization projects, and they need to be customized to the local needs and context of the communities to generate co-benefits for local sustainable development. Now, our first speaker has a bit of a situation here. He needs to leave quite quickly, but he has agreed to give his presentation and then take questions from the audience. So again, with the button at your lower right-hand screen, please submit questions for Mr. Jan Rees. He is the climate and circular economy expert at ABN AMRO Bank, which is a member of the European Association of Cooperative Banks. Now, Mr. Rees, we thank you very much for making time to join our event today, and I promise we will have you out on time. We understand that sustainability is embedded in your strategy at ABN AMRO, and you're committed to the transition to a net zero society by 2050. So how do you intend to do this as a bank, and how do you support city decarbonization? Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me take you through. The question came at the right moment because we have just published our climate action plan, and that's an important building block for living up to our net zero commitment as a bank. And of course, it always starts at the top. So we have the right CEO, Mr. Robert Swaak, and he says that as banks, we can no longer just focus on financial performance. We also have to look at our role in society. And I am part of his team. I am an expert on climate and circular economy, but I'm not alone. There are 20,000 colleagues out there that all work every day to realize this vision of working towards a net zero society in 2050. We have millions of clients, and they also want to learn from us how we can support them financially to make this transition. We also manage a lot of money on behalf of our clients, and also our investment advice is looking at opportunities for decarbonization, and we also have targets for decarbonizing fully by 2050. Now, strategy is very important, but purpose is even more important because the strategy is a means to an end, and we use it to achieve our purpose, which is banking for better for generations to come. So we consider what we do today as important for next generations and the generations that come after those next generations. But what does it mean for us to operate in the context of a sustainable city? We have, of course, read all the 17 SDGs published by the United Nations, and particularly SDG 11 describes very well what it means to work on targets concretely contributing to a sustainable city and community. We translate it within the strategy of ABN AMRO in 3 pillars: social, circular, and climate. Now, the city that we have our headquarters in is called Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and they operate with a model published by Kate Rayward, and that is called the donut economy. The model you see in the middle, and that also helps to position yourself where you are in this transition towards 2050. Now, very interesting for you as an audience, all interested in city development and urban development, there is a document out there. I'm not going to read it, I'm just pointing it out to you. That's called the Amsterdam City Donut. I highly advise reading this document because it gives a lot of tooling on how to take transformative action. And why is this important for us in our identity as a bank in Northwestern Europe? Our headquarters are in Amsterdam, so we develop our vision also based on what is around us and in line with the society that we operate from and operate in. So we are truly European bank. Now, just focusing on Amsterdam. Amsterdam is a long-term member of the C40's cities network. It has a population of more than 800,000 people. I think now we are reaching 900,000, by the way. We have an area of 220 square kilometers and a GDP of around 60 billion US dollars. We have many networks, many accelerators, many visioning documents, looking at battery sizing, energy efficiency, circular economy. I will focus mostly on cases in the circular economy going forward. So, as I said, very important, it all starts with a vision. And when we look at our role as a bank, we say that the 800,000 families that have a mortgage with us, we will help them realize the transition towards 2050 to decarbonize their households. And you have seen in the previous speakers, there are many solutions for that technically. And we are talking about those types of solutions. So heat pumps, solar panels, better installation, warmth, geothermal warmth. Those are the solutions, but we focus on the money part. And we do that for small homes and we do that for large corporate buildings. Now, we are also very concerned with the effect that our business has on, for example, the biodiversity in cities. And we have analyzed our impact. What does the financial position of ABN AMRO do when you look at the impact on biodiversity? And there again, the change in land use, and think about building a building on land that used to be nature, is a very important impact that ABN AMRO has and needs to manage as its role as a bank within the city context. Sorry, I'm going backward. So it is climate, it is biodiversity, but it's also circular economy. So we also look at the materials used for constructing all those buildings that together form the urban environment and together form a city. So we, together with 2 other partner banks in the Netherlands, ING and Rabobank, have published the International Circular Economy Finance Guidelines. That has been very well received. And let me explain what it means in practice. In practice, when you look through a circular economy lens at the development of a city, it means that if you build a new district in a city, like in the city of Amsterdam, you are not going to start from scratch. You are not going to start by demolishing everything, but you start by harvesting the materials that are there. A beautiful example that we have financed at ABN AMRO, together with a developer, is the new business district that replaces the city prison, infamous city prison called Bijlmer Bias. And it is a new sustainable city district. It was designed by the renowned architecture office of Mr. Rem Koolhaas, called Office of Metropolitan Architecture, OMA. They did the master plan. So we are very proud of being a financial partner there. But how does it work? It was a prison. This is what it always looked like. I've lived in the city now for 25 years, and this is the image I still have of this part of the city, a prison in the middle of the city. But it is really also a collection of buildings. And how do you deal with that when you want to make that not a prison, but part of the city where people can buy homes and live, and where you can do everyday life? Then actually the vision of Amsterdam kicked in. And the vision is not to demolish the whole structure, but to keep important parts of the structure. So this decided to keep some of the buildings. Of course, to make room for modern developments, there needed to be some demolition. But they didn't call it demolition, they called it harvesting. So they took important parts of the prison wall and other parts of the prison to reuse in the design of the new city district. That is really true to the circular economy philosophy. In detail, it looks like this. So there was a whole architectural study done by the developer and also rewarded by ABN AMRO because it aligns with our vision on climate and circular economy. And for the materials that they could not use in the local development of the new business district, they created a digital marketplace where they offered the materials from the old prison to other buyers who wanted to reuse the materials for their own designs outside of Amsterdam. That's the way you achieve a high percentage of circularity in building new business districts. And this aligns also with the national plan of the Netherlands to be a truly circular economy by 2050. So it is from the city level to the corporate level, we are involved as a financial player, to the level of the country, and then also to the level of the EU, who will come with a circular economy plan somewhere in 2023. Now, we have not stood still as a bank ourselves. We created a landmark building, which we call a circular building called Circle, where every day there are debates, discussions on how to tackle sustainable development, because it is not easy. This is a real part of the bank, and it was originally designed for employees only. But then we decided that this should be an open building, open to the whole society. And now the function of the building of ABN AMRO is that the civil society on a daily basis mixes with financial professionals and business professionals to reinvent the future. The building you can visit today, but I can tell you the building will probably be repositioned within the next 5 years to a different location, also to truly test the theory of the circularity of the building. So we will have to not demolish it, but harvest the building and replace it in another location. That's the future of Circle. And that attracts clients. So we have been working together with Mitsubishi to not own an elevator in our building, but to use it by transportation moving. So when the elevator brings people up and down, we pay a couple of cents of euro per movement instead of owning the elevator or buying the elevator for, let's say, 40,000 euros per elevator. That was a conscious decision to experiment with keeping Mitsubishi as the owner of the materials and the elevator. They know how to do best. When the elevator is old, they know how to transform it, repurpose it. We as a bank don't know. So we don't want to own the elevator. Mitsubishi remains the owner. And we have inspired also the first high-rise in Amsterdam to be built from timber, from wood. So this is again one of our clients. We built one wooden building ourselves. We put in many concepts that are circular. And now you see that the commercial sector is attracted by that idea and starts commercializing the idea to the point that this is now the highest wooden structure in Amsterdam. The building is real, is there, you can visit it. So welcome to our city. If you ever come from Japan, you are welcome to Amsterdam. And then the next step really that we are looking at and publishing on is how can we tackle the building process of all these circular buildings, climate-friendly buildings, hopefully also including biodiversity features, including nature. That's not very easy, but we focus on it a lot. But we also want to look at the future of the building sector itself, because it will organize itself completely different in 20 years than what we are used to now. So we have published one of the first reports on the maturity phase and the sales in robots involved in the building sector. So that's, again, a next step in the development of how we take our clients along on this journey of knowledge and education of changing towards a sustainable society. But, and I have to say this because I'm talking about robots, we always put humans in the center of our reasoning. So human rights and social impact are truly very important when we talk about climate, biodiversity, when we talk about circular economy. It's not only about buildings and construction materials, it's also, even if we talk about robots, it's also about the human element in everything that we do. And we publish on it. Now, talking about the human element, when you have such an ambition towards 2030 and 2050, and you have 20,000 employees, obviously not everybody is at the same level of knowledge. So we have developed a digital academy that was pre-corona lockdown. So luckily we had a digital learning environment in place. So we could continue educating online, like we are sharing information now, all the 20,000 employees of the bank, getting them on board with the sustainable strategy of the bank. Because also in the Netherlands, although there are ambitious plans, many people are concerned on how it will change their daily lives. If, for example, they need to change their car, they need to transform their house, and it will affect the way they travel, the way they eat. So there are many personal implications, and we educate on how to translate that in the dialogue towards our clients, and taking along all those important principles on circular economy, climate, sustainability in general, and the social aspect. Arigatou gozaimasu. I thank you for your attention. I'm very pleased and honored that I could present for you, and I wish you really well with the 100 Cities Network in Japan. I think it is a fantastic example on how to take leadership in this very difficult agenda towards 2050. So go Japan and good luck with that journey. If there are any questions, I'm open to questions now.
Wonderful. I think we do have just a handful of minutes here with you. Thank you very much. And you know, you had me at Antwerp City Donut. I think I was distracted after that. It looked good. So we are getting questions for you, Mr. Reyes. I'm going to take the one with 2 upvotes first from Liwa Wong. And the question here is whether cryptocurrency and decentralized finance, regenerative finance are considered by the bank and finance industry for future climate financing, or is this on the agenda in the near future?
It's on the European agenda. We are talking actively with the European Union, and we think that cryptocurrency right now is too risky for our clients. We are a bank. We need to give trustworthy advice. And our advice is that cryptocurrencies, although we track that market, we have experts on it, but we don't actively advise it as a safe investment. What we do believe in is that the European Union will come with a centralized cryptocurrency or a digital currency issued by the central bank in Frankfurt. And there we fully cooperate, and we have innovations going on the blockchain, and we have been tracking digital currencies from the very, very beginnings.
Yeah, the digital euro is under discussion, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And that's the discussion we're participating in. and less so the exotic flavors of all the digital cryptocurrencies that have emerged in the last 5 years. We are following them, but not advise them actively to clients.
Yeah, you can't afford a crash on the financing when you've got your climate projects funded for the next decades. So here is another question for you, sir. Do you have any views on who should bear the costs of the capital investment and system operation required for this paradigm shift to address climate change?
Yeah, in Holland, we have an active funding by the government. We have very close ties to the government because the bank is 50% owned by the government. We have a very good relationship with the government to do public-private cooperations. And some of them are simply in the context of subsidies. For example, if you buy an electric car, there is a subsidy on that electric car. For larger projects, there is a fine-grained subsidy network, and we can give loans also with guarantees from the government that add the private money to the public money. So that's the way the Dutch government has always worked, but it is obviously attached to those technologies that stimulate decarbonization.
But is that a view in principle on who should bear the costs of the capital investment, or that's simply how it works in the Netherlands?
The view in principle, it's always a mix. There's partially the consumer that bears the cost, a reasonable cost that's debated in the parliament. So it's a democratic process to decide that's a reasonable cost. Then there are subsidies that kick in, and that gets supplemented by private initiative. And that's where, for example, ABN AMRO comes in.
And
so
do you believe
always
also...
a mix?
All right, go ahead. No, please finish.
No, I said it's always a mix. So the balance between the pockets of the client or the consumer, the pockets of the government, and the pockets of the private money and the private capital.
That answers another question. I had another question on whether citizens and consumers should also bear a cost, and you just answered that question. Here is another one from one of our Japanese participants. If a company or a municipality owns a large forest or eelgrass field and was able to achieve carbon sequestration credits, do you think the market capitalization or value of the company or municipality would increase significantly, or do you think there would be a significant indirect impact? That's pretty complicated.
Yeah, but I think I can answer. There is, in The Guardian recently, there was an investigative article on the value of carbon credits. I advise you all to follow that series of articles. Now the third article came out, and it relates to the carbon credits based on forestry. And what they doubt in that article is whether the claims of the decarbonization effects of these credits is effective enough to reach the 2050 targets. So we need to bear in mind that there are now critical investigations going on the effectiveness of carbon credits, and we as a bank follow that closely because we always advise our clients on a credible source of credit. So first, we would need a guarantee that the source of these credits is credible and that it really truly contributes to decarbonization, and then we can do business.
Very interesting and good tip to look up that series of articles. Okay, I promised I would have you in time to make it to your next meeting, and so I will do that. Thank you so much for sharing this interesting presentation with us, Mr. Reis, and good luck with the rest of your meetings for the day.
Can I have some famous last words?
Yeah, have some famous last words, certainly.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I am now addressing you from Paris. Normally I work in Amsterdam, but I am here really to talk to our employees about the climate strategy. So you have me very much at the right moment, but I really have to go because now there's a group waiting for me to do this discussion on how we're going to make it work, how we are going to implement this net zero vision by 2050 as a bank.
Well, it's very ambitious and very interesting. The circular economy and the buildings being repurposed. I found it really fascinating. So I'm glad we could give you a warm up for your next group.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. And now we'll move on to the rest of our panel. Our next speaker is going to be a group of speakers, I should actually say. And this will include Mr. Mitsuaki Takamoto, who's the head of the Environmental Planning Section for the Environmental Policy Division in the Department of Civil Affairs for Yonago City. Mr. Ryo Inoue, Director of the Regional Development Department for Sanin Godo Bank. And Mr. Mitsunobu Inoue, the Deputy Director of the Business Strategy Department for Gogen Energy Company. Their presentation is titled Toward Local Decarbonization, Introduction of Yonago City and Sanin Godo Bank Group Initiatives. So we understand that the case study you're going to be talking about first began to resolve the many challenges that Yonago City had at the time. So we're looking forward to hearing about those challenges and how you've resolved them. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much to you in Europe and Japan. I am Takamoto from Yonago. Today, we would like to introduce to you our activities that we are undertaking jointly with Yonago City and Sanin Godo Bank Group. Please show the slide. We are located at the center of Sanin area, and we are blessed with plenty of nature with the peaks and water, the mountains and water. It snowed very heavy last night, and we have many skiers visiting us. In our park from Siberia, we see many swans visiting us, and many people enjoy watching the bird. We have Yonago Castle, and last year a TV program designated Yonago Castle as the strongest castle in Japan, and people are paying attention. I hope you'll come and visit us. Now, Yonago City is blessed with nature, but we have our local issues. The first is the energy issue. When considering local production and consumption, we have to think of electricity bills. About 100 billion yen goes out of Tottori Prefecture, and from Yonago City, we have to spend 50 billion yen for electricity bill. Another issue is the dilapidated agricultural land. Currently, we have 340 hectares of the land where revitalization have been difficult, and we have seen damages from weeds and insects. The last is the issue with the dealing with the natural disasters that caused with global warming. In order to find solutions to the local issues, we have applied to the decarbonization leading area by the Ministry of Environment in Japan. We were selected in the first round. This is the business we are engaged in. PPA project of solar power on-site, off-site. Through these activities, we will supply electricity from renewable energy to achieve decarbonization. This is how we promote the project. The local energy company is serving as a secretariat, and they, together with the newly created PPA business operators, they will promote the activities. Yonago City and Sanin Yonago Godo Bank will support this effort. Now from Sanin Godo Bank, we'll hear the presentation about the specific activities. Oh my God. I am from Sanin Godo Bank. Thank you very much. I am Inoue, and we are located in west of Japan. In Sanin area, we are a local financial institution. One characteristic we have is related to the topic today. our relationship with the local prefectural government. Among Japanese financial institutions, we are the only institution designated by 2 prefectures that are adjacent to each other. Sustainability of the local community and finding solutions to the issues are the same 2 sides of the same coin. And we have made a sustainability declaration in 2019. As EST initiative, we have agreed to those activities, initiatives, and introduced governance system. And as the first financial institution, we issued the regional sustainability report in 2021. There is an English edition. I recommend that you read. Next, about sustainability, I will talk about the system and some of the KPIs that we use. First of all, we have the bank president at the top of the sustainability committee so that the operator itself can take initiative. And by 2030, sustainable finance, 1.5 trillion yen is going to be the amount we will work on. As for carbon neutrality, by 2030, Scope 1, 2 will achieve net zero, and by 2050, Scope 3 will be included in net zero. These are our goals. Achievement of those goals and finding solutions for local issues will lead to some of the specific activities we have undertaken. Now, from Gogin Energy Company, Inoue will explain what we have done. First, as a financial institution, we have financial products, sustainability-linked loan, green loans, and social loans. We started to begin offering these services in October 2021 to strengthen our support for SDGs and ESG initiatives. We have a unique situation in Japan. We have a J-credit system as a carbon credit system. We are also offering a support for carbon offset system, which has started in 2010. In total, 246 projects amounting to 8,420 tons had been meditated. Next, we have Gogin Forest of Hope, which is more our effort for CRS, philanthropic activity. Our employees have been participating in the forestry preservation activity. The Forestry Agency introduced Award of Excellence, the Director's Award, and we received the award this year. Furthermore, in this current fiscal year, we have stores, and 101% of the energy consumptions was reduced through our ZEB branch. Now, as for our relationship with the administrative government, Tottori Prefectural Government have eco-life concept, and we have become a partner for the implementation. We are the first of the eco-life platinum partner to promote the activities. Now, as was introduced earlier, there is a regional decarbonization roadmap. 2 years ago in June, the roadmap was announced by the Council for National and Local Decarbonization. We are financial institutions, and we are expected to take part actively. We are in the financial sector, but other than the financial activities, we will be able to involve in some of the perspectives of the roadmap program. Therefore, we have decided to find ways to work with more commitment with the local community. Now, with our customers, we have done a questionnaire survey, and it was found that for carbon neutrality or decarbonization, many people said they don't know what to do. And the issues in implementation of the plan, they lack know-how, or the cost burden is too high. Those are the words we have heard, and we thought perhaps those are the reasons that there are bottlenecks in promoting this activity. And we thought, as a financial institution, we could be of help in this regard. Now, there are issues. How can we bring those bottlenecks into a virtuous circle? What we thought about was to maximize the use of renewable energy, local production and local consumption, and we thought that we could take a leadership in this effort. And 2 years ago, on July 1st, as the first bank, we have established a Gogin Energy company to engage in this business. The basic ideas, visions, and the company is to achieve local carbonization and carbon neutrality. However, this is only part of the ways and means. The achieving or expanding circular economy in the local area and finding solutions to the local issues is what we would like to achieve, because this would be the local activities that we need to emphasize. With related business partners, we collaborate so that we can give additional values to these efforts in the local community. Lastly, I would like to explain this. As Saingodo Energy Group, we engage in financing, and also we have our business subsidiaries. We will collaborate to give financial support as well as business operational support so that the local decarbonization and achieving neutralities could be aimed at. And we would like to continue to work hard for the local community. I am sorry I spoke longer than the allotted time, but if there are any questions, we would like to answer as much as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we will be returning all of our panelists at the end of the presentations to answer questions together. We are running a little bit behind on time now, so I'm going to move ahead immediately and welcome Mr. Atsushi Ida. He is the EEDA Director in the Decarbonization Strategy Promotion Office in the Environmental Bureau for Kawasaki City. And he's going to be speaking about decarbonization projects and funding schemes for Kawasaki City. Sir, why is your program so unique? Please take the floor.
Thank you very much. My presentation on the decarbonization project and funding of Kawasaki City. I am Ida Atsushi, Director at the Organization Strategy Promotion Office of Environment Bureau, Kawasaki City. This is the overview of Kawasaki City. It has a population of 1.54 million with 760,000 households. It has an area space of 144 square kilometers. This means that Kawasaki is a city with high population density. Japan is a country that is suffering from declining birth rates and aging of the society. However, Kawasaki is unique in the sense that it will be having its peaking of the population in 2030 at 1.65 million. So we expect the increase of activities in the civilian sector. With large population within Kawasaki City, we are advantageous in terms of the access to the areas of the Tokyo metropolitan area as well. There are 20 government designated cities, and these are typically the cities that has population of 0.8 million. And including Tokyo and these designated 20 cities, Kawasaki enjoys the highest organic population growth rate over the last 35 years. Also, per employee product shipment has been at the very top at 90 million yen, and that is the #1 position over the last 46 years. So these are the features of Kawasaki City. Moving on. Against this backdrop, we would now like to explore the GHG emission of Kawasaki City. Back in 2019, as you can see, we have been having an emission of 23 million tons. And this means that Kawasaki is the largest emitter across the cities that I have just mentioned. And these are the breakdown of the emissions across different segments. Kawasaki is an industrial city. Reflecting that feature, 76% of the emissions are from the industrial sector. 47% is the national average of emissions by the industrial sector. So this really accentuates the fact that Kawasaki is a large industrial city with large populations. Now, back in March this year, we have just formulated a strategy towards against global warming with 3 major goals. One is to achieve the virtual zero emission by 2050. And 2030 goal is the 50% decrease of emission compared from the year 2013. Also, the renewable target of 2030 is to increase to over 330,000 kilowatts, up from 200,000 kilowatts in 2020. Kawasaki is an urban area with very little untapped resources. But despite all that, we would like to achieve highest rate of renewables as much as possible. These are the goals that we have upheld. However, we need to have concrete plans to achieve our goals. That is why we have 5 major plans with expected outcomes, and delivery of these outcomes are the goals of our activities. First is the renewable. The second is industrial. Third, civilian. Fourth, transportation. And 5, municipal administration. These are the 5 elements, and today I would like to focus from project 1 to 3 that are renewables, industrial, and civilian. First, let's focus on renewables. We will be establishing a regional energy company. This year, Kawasaki City is jointly funding to establish a regional energy company. The city also has waste power generation source as well. And with this, we will be driving the renewable as well as circular economy. In addition to retail power, the company will be engaged in energy management as well as power source development as well. And this is industrial sector. Carbon neutral industrial complex is the concept that we are currently pushing. Carbon decarbonization is a very important target for the industrial area on the Kawasaki waterfront. And decarbonization can possibly have a negative impact on the industry if unabated. This will also lead to harsher competition with other industrial parks across the other part of the country as well. That could possibly lead to a dip in the tax revenue. That is why we are rolling out an initiative to create a new and innovative carbon neutral industrial complex capitalizing on hydrogen power, and other new technologies. Kawasaki Neutral Industrial Complex Formation Council has been established to this end. to closely work together with the private sector to achieve carbon neutral industrial complex in Kawasaki. The Promotion Council has joined a major global network of similar zero emission complexes across the world. The second project is the initiatives in decarbonization model areas. As has been touched upon by other presenters, the government has selected several DLAs, and up to 5 billion yen of subsidies are provided by the government to push the initiative. And we are currently working on this project so that Kawasaki can be a model city of DLA. And with this project, we are looking forward to achieving virtual zero emission of the industrial sector by 2050. Now, the goals of the project. At the center is the implementation, social implementation of these initiatives. Exactly what does it mean? These are the goals that cannot easily be achieved because that requires appropriate distribution of resources in a very seamless manner, be it human and other assets. And next slide recap our initiatives as well. As for Project 1, Regional Energy Company has received 51 million yen of funding from Kawasaki City as well, so that we can facilitate loans to SMEs within the region. We also will make best use of the government funding given an opportunity. As for DLA, we will best utilize the money from the central government in addition to private sector investment and crowdfunding, so that we can make steady progress. With this, I would like to close my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ida, and you will, of course, be coming back for our panel discussion at the end. And our last speaker of this panel, Ms. Alexandrina Boyanova, who's the head of the Climate Office at the European Investment Bank. Now, Ms. Boyanova, we'd really like to know what the climate strategy is of the European Investment Bank. As we heard before from ABN AMRO, banks aren't just there for the financial considerations. So how does EIB contribute to greening of European cities? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schultz. And maybe before I start, I also wanted to thank the organizers and all the attendees today at the panel. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be with all of you today. I'm of course here to present the strategy of the European Investment Bank, but I'm also here to learn from you. I visited Japan some 20 years ago at the invitation at the time of the Japanese Development Bank. But even then, my impression was that the Japanese cities are really very beautiful. They're very clean, well organized and welcoming as the people were. So you have advanced and developed so much in the meantime, setting some very good examples for all of us in Europe as well. So you clearly are doing the right things, and well done to all of you. I will now continue with my presentation. Next slide, please. Perhaps just to set the scene, you probably all know that the European Investment Bank is the EU bank. The EU member states are our shareholders. But what you probably don't necessarily know is that we are also the largest multilateral bank in the world. We are twice larger than the World Bank, for example. We lend around 60 to 70 billion euros a year of new projects. 90% of what we do is in the European Union and 10% is outside the Union. We are AAA rated, and that's an important consideration because our AAA rating model allows us to raise funds at cheap rates and pass on then the financial value added to our final beneficiaries, to the counterparts and projects that we finance. This is particularly important in times of crisis like we have now in Europe, when the interest rates are rising and some of the promoters that we work with are scaling down their investment because of the high cost of financing. So here, the European Investment Bank has an important role to play, again, passing on that financial advantage. As you can see from the statistics, we have financed over 14,000 projects in more than 160 countries. We provide co-financing, so we never finance 100% of the project cost. We are there to act more as an anchor investor, crowding in other public and private capital investment. Next slide, please. So here I would like to present very briefly our climate finance track record. Again, we are not only the largest multilateral bank in the world, but we are also one of the most important providers of climate finance. We have extended, I think, during the last 10 years, around $200 billion of climate finance inside and outside the EU. We are the first issuer of green bond in the European Union. We have actually set that standard. The first use of proceeds green bond was issued by the European Investment Bank back in 2007, and now this is gaining a lot of importance on the sustainability markets. We are also the largest multilateral issuer of green bonds. We have issued in multiple currencies for large amounts, and the share of green bonds in total funding has been increasing steadily. Again, these are use of proceeds bonds, so whatever we raise on the capital markets also goes to our projects and financiers. We can quickly skip through the other boxes in the interest of time, but what you can see is that we have a climate finance target since 2010. It was 25% back then, and on the next slide you will see how we have evolved in the meantime. Thank you. So on this slide, I'm presenting to you the overall climate finance that the European Investment Bank did in 2021. The figures for 2022 are ready, but they would be officially announced by our president next year. But what you see here are the four main public policy goals that the EIB is financing. Again, as the EU bank, we finance EU priorities, and the priorities that we as the EIB have set ourselves are the four you see here. First of all, innovation, digital and human capital. Second, sustainable energy and natural resources. Third, SMEs and mid-cap finance. And last but not least, sustainable cities and regions. And you can see that the amount of green lending that we did in 2021 to sustainable cities and regions was close to 14 billion euros, which is quite important. Next slide, please. So what happened in 2019 is that the European Investment Bank made the commitment to transform from an EU bank financing climate. As I mentioned, we have a climate target since 2010 to the EU Climate Bank. What does that mean in practice? It means that we made three specific commitments, which we have outlined in our Climate Bank roadmap. The first one is to increase the share of green lending to 50% and above. And I can already announce that for last year, we were closer to 60%. The second important commitment is that for us to mobilize green finance of 1 trillion euros with our participation during the critical decade between 2021 and 2030. And also, last but importantly, to align all our activities with the Paris Agreement, meaning that projects that are not aligned with the Paris Agreement, with the criteria that we have adopted based on the EU taxonomy, are not eligible for EIB financing. I think that's a very, very important point to make here. Thank you. Next slide, please. And here, I would like to give you an overview of the products that the European Bank uses. So first of all, let's not forget that European Bank Group consists of the European Investment Bank, but also of the European Investment Fund, which is our subsidiary, which does primarily guarantees and equity. So as far as investment grade risk operations are concerned, the dark blue that you see on the left side, you see the types of instruments that we dispose with. We do direct public sector financing, which is what is of interest for the panel today. We also do corporate lending, and we also finance SMEs, but not directly, rather using the intermediation of our commercial banking partners and of the other multilateral development banks. As far as sub-investment grade operations are concerned, the products we have are the project finance, loans and equity type business, and also risk sharing. What you don't see here, but is an important part of what we do, is actually the advisory services. I will speak about it a bit later, because it's not only important to provide funding to projects that are already bankable. There is a lot of funding, or at least in the last years, there was a lot of liquidity lying around, but what we were really missing is good projects. So to have good projects, it's important to have technical advisory, and we are also providing free of charge technical advisory to our promoters to prepare good quality projects and to make them bankable. Next slide, please. So on this slide, I have highlighted a bit the green products that we have developed and are still developing as part of our Climate Bank roadmap, as part of our business development efforts. We have the green bond. As I mentioned, we are already very active on the liability side, raising funds through the green bonds, but we have now also scaled up this product on the asset side, because the capital markets need to be developed, and the EIB is an important partner there, acting again as anchor investor to attract other financiers. We also have the green loan product, again using these labels not just to indicate that they're green, but also that they're fully aligned with the EU taxonomy. We have a green debt advisory program. As I mentioned, advisory is an important part of our overall package, complementing the funding offer of the EIB. And we also have some thematic transactions and venture debt. We are currently developing the KPI or sustainability linked product. I heard from other colleagues that they have mainstreamed this product as well. It is an important one indeed, because it allows not only to focus on the specific projects, on the use of proceeds, but also to address the decarbonization of the companies on a more global level, because it is important when a company does a green project that also the other projects it does are sufficiently in line with its overall sustainability strategy. So we are also working on this product as well. Next slide, please. So here we have tried to summarize what are the main challenges and opportunities, at least as far as the European Union is concerned, and how we support, as the European Investment Bank, the green cities. Of course, one of the main challenges is the climate neutrality goal by 2050. And this has to be also seen in a wider EU context, because different countries have different starting points. The northern part of Europe is more advanced. The southeastern part of Europe, where I come from, I'm Bulgarian, is less advanced. So there is much more to be done, let's say, in that part of Europe than in the northern part of Europe. And of course, the budgets are different. The funding is not always affordable, and local authorities, as you well know, do not always have the fiscal space to borrow for the ambitious CapEx programs that they have. Of course, another complication was the COVID crisis, and the fact that when we decarbonize more generally, we have to think about just transition, so leaving no one behind, and really thinking also about the human aspect, as my colleague mentioned. There are significant investment gaps and huge barriers in terms of funding, but not only, also there are some regulatory measures that need to take place. And also, as I mentioned, we need to improve the technical capacity of the project promoters to prepare good quality projects. At the same time, there are a number of opportunities. To start, I think the climate neutrality objective itself is not only a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to rebuild our cities and rebuild them well, rebuild them green. We are increasing also the focus on social investment in certain areas like health and education. And of course, now with the development of the digitalization, there are also a number of opportunities there. Next slide, please. This is just to underline once again what I mentioned in the beginning, that it's not only important to look at the specific project. When we appraise projects, we look more holistically and at the overall plan of the city, of the counterpart. The project that we are financing needs to make sense and fit in within that overall strategy. Next slide, please. I think here you can see a nice illustration of the approach that we are taking in this regard. Again, one of the, if I recall, in 2007, one of the first projects that we did in my hometown, the city of Sofia, was the metro. And I remember then the engagement that the European Investment Bank invested in the development of this project, meeting with the mayor of Sofia and really analyzing in a holistic manner what the plan of the city for sustainable developments are. Yeah, how the European Investment Bank can contribute. Next slide, please. So here, just to underline again what type of instruments we think are relevant for the financing of local authorities. Importantly, again, public development banks have a role to play. Why? Because they can attract long-term funding, very long-term funding, and offer also long grace periods, which is important to ensure that counterparts have the financial capacity to service their debt. So long maturities, long grace periods, and affordable interest rates. And these are all the aspects that we offer as part of our funding package. Next slide, please. Here again, a description that you can read in more detail. The organizers will distribute the slides about the type of advisory support we provide. Again, it's not only technical, but also financial advisory, which is important to prepare good quality projects, make them bankable, and attract private sector financing. Next slide, please. And here I've given, again, information, 2 examples of projects that we have, municipal projects that we have financed. One is the city of Athens, and there we have again combined funding plus advisory. And the other is the Clermont-Ferrand city in France. There are quite a lot of project examples available on our website with a description of the types of projects that we do. So I invite all of you to visit our website and get more information. I've spoken too long, but there was a lot to say. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much. And this leaves us about 10 minutes for questions. So I'll bring back all of my panelists now. We're getting clapping hands floating up on our screen. So I think these presentations were very much appreciated. We have a question for all the panelists, and please let's keep our answers short so that we can get to more of the questions, since this is our last panel of the event and people still very much want information. So for all of you, how do you enhance the capacity of the bank's staff on communication skills with clients about SDGs and decarbonization in order to scale up the bank's business in this area? So we'll go back to our speakers in the order in which they presented to answer this question.
Now, first from Yonago, this was a rather difficult question to answer. Now, we have an organization, council, where we hear the opinion of people. And as we promote decarbonization, we try to find solutions. Now, Sain Godo Bank is a very important partner for us in terms of financing. We depend a lot on them. Now, these efforts we will continue. By doing so, we would like to promote decarbonization. I know I'm not answering the question, but that's my comment. Thank you.
Does our group from Goguen want to say something?
financial sector will have to make good efforts, and the local communities, the local governments are important, and our customers, the business operators, they have their management issues. Now, improving communication skills will be achieved through the interactions at our bank. Our bank staff members, not everybody have a high level of communication skills yet. However, very steadily, for carbon neutrality and decarbonization, I think they are improving their skills through interactions. And with the people of local community, local governments, we would like to continue our efforts.
Mr. Ida, would you like to answer?
I will be talking from the viewpoint of a local authority. Working with the financial institutions, well, we usually invite financial institutions from an early stage of the project so that they can better understand the nature of the project and can provide us with opinions and pieces of advices. I shared with you 3 model cases, and all these projects have been joined by financial institutions from the earliest stage. So working together with the financial institutions will help us better communicate within a project.
Ms. Boyanova?
Thank you very much. I think it's a great question and a very important one. Again, we are the EU Climate Bank, and of course, we are engaging very actively with our front line to make them the climate ambassadors. That's actually part of the role of what my team does. So we do regular trainings, how to improve knowledge and communication skills on climate. And of course, we pass on that knowledge afterwards to our clients as well.
Okay, this is a question that has a bit of similarity, and it's directly to the Sun and Godo Bank. You mentioned that you're showcasing renewable energy projects to answer your clients' issues of not knowing what they are to do in terms of decarbonization. How do you communicate with such clients? How can you change their mindset, which is usually that decarbonization is not that important and the cost is too high? I mean, that's actually also, others can answer that question as well, but this was directed to the Sun and Godo Bank.
Thank you for the question. First of all, our customers, when they don't know what to do, as they answered in questionnaire, well, we explain about the global trend. This is not just in Japan, and maybe it's too idealistic, but we say that on the global level, we want our customers to take ownership of the issues, and that's how we ask our bank staff members to explain. Now, gradually, little by little, but steadily, our business partners and the local businesses begin to understand the issue. And although they are small and medium-sized companies, they are beginning to feel the importance of working with the climate issues. Now, what can they do? Offering specific solutions is what the local energy company or Saingodo company can do through our company resources. Now, as we engage in these activities, of course, in terms of cost, there are negotiations necessary with our business partners, but we try to overcome those issues one by one so we can contribute for the local community.
Would anyone else like to add on to that?
Perhaps I can come in, if you don't mind.
I have another question for you as well.
Good, great. I'll be very quick then. Very quickly, I think it is, again, a very good question. What has changed, I would say, in the last couple of years is that while the decarbonization was before more of an aspiration of a long-term goal, now the cost of the renewable energy alternatives has dropped so much that it has become more competitive than the conventional sources. So there is not only a policy angle there, but there is now a natural business case. And I think that's the best motivation for a promoter. If clean is cheaper, then they should go for it. As Bill Gates says, we need to reduce the green premium, and I think we are there.
Okay, here's a question again to you, Ms. Boyanova, for some practical advice. How to enhance in-house capacity for technical advisory services to make projects bankable? This is from Akihisa Mori.
Yes, I think you need to have a dedicated unit with people who have a varying level of technical expertise. In the case of the European Investment Bank, this is called advisory services. And most of the colleagues who work in advisory services come either from the banking teams, from the front line with a sufficiently robust financial background, but also from our project directorate, where we have really very experienced colleagues in all sectors, in different sectors, engineers as well as economists. So these colleagues then move to the advisory services, working with promoters to pass on that knowledge, again, helping them structure the projects financially, but also guide them to the more technically and economically viable options.
Okay, thank you very much. I have one more minute, this can be basically a yes or no answer probably. Does the EIB invest in natural gas projects, given that that is allowed under EU taxonomy?
So the answer is no. And we committed in 2019, even before adopting the Climate Bank Roadmap, that we will stop financing unabated fossil fuels in 2009. And even in the context of the current challenges and crisis, we stick to our commitment.
I think that's an answer that will be interesting for everyone here working on decarbonization. Well, that is going to wrap up our time for panel 4. And in fact, we are wrapping up our participatory part of the entire 2-day event. So I would like to thank my panelists here. And in fact, for the entire 2 days, it's really been a privilege to be here with IGES and with all of you, and to learn so much about this really crucial issue facing all of us. I've learned a lot, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. And I am going to hand this back to Mr. Mori for the final speakers. Oh, and I'm getting some hearts. That's really kind. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Mori for our final speakers of the program.
Thank you very much, all speakers, for your interesting presentation and insights. And Terry, thank you very much for your wonderful facilitation of the discussions. Thank you very much for. Now that all the discussions have been concluded, we would like to invite the heads of the 2 cities from Japan and Europe to deliver the closing remarks through video. And the delegation of the European Union to Japan to concluding remarks. First, kindly invite Mr. Daisaku Kadokawa, the mayor of the Kyoto City, who is contributing via video.
Good evening. I am Daisaku Kadokawa. It is an honor for me to speak at the closing of the event aiming to facilitate exchange among the cities selected as decarbonization leading areas in Japan and as a part of 100 EU cities in the EU mission. I would like to express my gratitude to all those who helped to realize this event. During the past year, the COVID pandemic remained, and around the world we have seen increased damages from such out of normal weather as droughts and floods from heavy rain. Such weather conditions are believed to have been caused by global warming. Also, Russian army invaded Ukraine, which led to serious global energy crisis. This is the time when cities around the world must get together and aim at achieving early return of peace, conversion to renewable energy, and carbon neutrality. We have renewed our determination. Kyoto is the place where the adoption of Kyoto Protocol, the first for the mankind, took place, and also the IPCC Kyoto Guideline to support implementation of Paris Agreement in which all humans participate. We are proud and have the sense of mission, and the entire community has strongly promoted target creation of a community that incorporates climate measures. Also in 2019, as the first head of a Japanese government, I declared the goal of net zero emission by 2050, which later spread throughout the country. And the following year, the Japanese government adopted the goal as the national policy. Last year, Kyoto was selected as a decarbonization leading area under the Japanese program. We will decarbonize our cultural heritage sites, which make our communities unique, with our temples, shrines, commercial districts, universities, and homes. And we will challenge at creating models for achieving the goal of net zero by 2030. In addition to such enhanced work by individual cities, it is indispensable that cities around the world collaborate so that we can evolve decarbonization efforts. The city of Kyoto is a member of such organizations as ICLEI, the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, and Para-Impact Co-Alliance. I serve as the president of ICLEI East Asian Regional Board and chairman of the Japanese Steering Committee of the Global Covenant, and have taken various opportunities to actively invite cities to participate in such collaboration. We also participate in the EU's IURC project, and in order to share best practices, we plan to exchange government officials with our sister city Prague, the capital of Czech Republic. Climate change is a global issue that a single city cannot solve. We shall share the outcome of the event broadly, strengthen exchanges between EU and Japan, and collaborate among cities around the world so that we can take robust steps forward toward achieving net zero. Thank you very much.
Then kindly welcome Mr. Christophe Ferrari, the president of Global Alpes Metropole, who is contributing via video.
Dear Mr. Mayor of Kyoto, dear delegate from the EU, dear representatives of cities, speakers and participants, this is a great honor for me to conclude this very intensive 2 days on EU-Japan Green Alliance and 100 climate-neutral cities. These very important topics of climate change and transition are fundamental for Grenoble. Our achievements come from some unique aspects. The geographical assets and constraints of the territory, an aware and sensitive population because of its high average level of education. The need to solve problems such as air quality, the proximity among stakeholders, research and development, university, administration, companies, and a long-standing tradition of participation have led to some very positive experiments and some positive experience that we are very proud of. The first Metropolitan Climate Master Plan in France in 2005, cross-cutting every policies such as mobility, energy, and other topics. Since then, investments and policies have been developed in this direction, and a common work with Grenoble City, numerous local stakeholders, and citizens have led to the award of the European Green Capital 2022, and to be part of the 100 climate-neutral EU cities. One of the accelerators for the transition is a strong team that works tirelessly on a long-term basis to work with the citizens and the companies. As an active cooperating city with Japanese cities, we have one sister city and 2 project partners, Tsukuba, Toyotashi, and Koriyama, as former European Green Capital 2022, and among the 100 climate neutral and smart cities selected by the EU. I'm very proud to see how pertinent our positioning is, focusing on innovation and transition efforts and the participation of all the forces. We heard that cities consume most of the world's energy, and we are responsible for over 70% of the global CO2 emissions. For that reason, They have to play a central role in the transition of all aspects, from housing to mobility, energy, water consumption, or jobs and education. They play a central role by mobilizing local forces and coordinating initiatives. But cities also need to know each other's practices and create alliances to scale up their experiences and address climate change at a global level. The EU and Japan collaboration is therefore an important piece for the global scale. This is what Grenoble did with the European Green Capital Year and within the EU RC program, and what you did during these last 2 days. I'm very convinced that you found inspiring experiences within these passionate debates from energy resilience, a need that we already face to decarbonization initiatives, and hope that our respective ecosystems will interlock to develop new transition solutions. I wish you all my best and a very happy New Year.
Finally, may I welcome Mr. Heise Jimmels, Deputy Head at Delegation of the European Union to Japan. Mr. Jimmels, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
So I would like to really thank all the participants in the event today that was co-organized between our delegation and the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, and that brought together so many European and Japanese cities to discuss their climate policies. So we heard from the Vice Minister, Mr. Ono, yesterday, and from our own ambassador, Mr. Paquet, how important it is to accelerate climate action at subnational level, and how much this is a priority for Japan and the European Union. We've articulated this also at our level in the Green Alliance that we have, of course, and we expect that quite a bit of dialogue will happen on this also during the upcoming G7 meetings in Hokkaido. One of the really positive messages from this event is the level of ambition and commitment of cities to transform their economies so that they can adapt to the climate crisis and go even further than the national targets. And we've seen the level of ambition and interest by cities in taking climate actions in the presentation that Mr. Philippe Froissart from DG RTD in the European Commission made yesterday on the 100 cities initiative as an EU mission on cities, with over 370 cities in Europe that responded to it. And we heard some of the actions. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what has been presented during these last 2 days. For example, Turku, that aims to become a climate neutral city by 2029 through some of its climate practices and circular economy, and a strong level of engagement among academics, NGOs, and citizens. Warsaw talked to us about their strategies to manage the surge in energy prices resulting from Russia's aggression in Ukraine, and changing their energy mix from 70% dependence on fossil fuels to more renewable resources. Zagreb spoke about the need to embed energy resilience and climate policies in all aspects of urban planning. Umea spoke about the importance of gender disaggregated data for inputs to climate policy, and how important it is to not build inequality in the charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. We heard from the Ministry of Environment initiative, where there are 46 areas that are already leading in taking action to reduce emissions and achieve faster decarbonization. And as the mayor of Kyoto who just spoke will be fully aware, the importance that Kyoto presented about the importance of preserving its cultural assets with innovation and adapting the infrastructure to maximize the use of renewables was also a highlight. Many cities highlighted the need to take action to reduce emissions with reduced pollution, lower traffic congestion, saving money through recycling, and overall improved quality of life for their citizens. And this is one of the things that makes the action by cities so important, because nowhere else in cities do you find such a concentration of different activities whose environmentalization, if you will, really contributes to further decarbonization. And we heard about the challenges facing cities in financing adaptation and dealing with capacity constraints. Many cities still rely on support from national level governments, to retrofit buildings, installing infrastructure for electric vehicles and so on. And there's still a lot of work that is being done and can be done on more creative financing instruments that help in that context. The event then also facilitated really valuable exchanges and the collection of ideas concerning energy security and resilience and how innovation can benefit decarbonization and the financing of these initiatives. So the EU will really continue to support local governments' efforts to raise their ambitions and promote local climate action to achieve our zero carbon emission goals by 2050. We've also been supporting exchanges between European and Japanese cities through a project that facilitates officials from European cities to visit cities in Japan and to visit projects to see concretely what's being done by Japanese cities to reduce their carbon footprint. Equally, Japanese cities representatives have visited Europe in the framework of that project. In 2022, a total of 20 officials from European cities visited Japan and 19 Japanese cities representatives visited Europe. We, of course, want to continue this cooperation, and our project will continue to facilitate these exchanges this year as well. The Global Covenant of Mayors, of course, I need to mention as well, because we've been supporting it for a long time, and its chapter in Japan comprises over 42 Japanese cities. It's one of those initiatives that really demonstrates the pioneering spirit of cities that brings together thousands of mayors from all over the world, united by their ambition to tackle the climate crisis at local level and secure a better future for citizens. So I'll conclude by saying that the work that cities do in dealing with climate change is a demonstration of the importance of concrete, on-the-ground action that involves citizens. Where sometimes bigger organizations and operators are slow to act or fail to take a train that's already moving, cities are at the forefront of securing our well-being in the future, and they are all too aware of the importance to act now, not later. So I want to thank you all for your participation and, most importantly, your continuing drive for a decarbonized future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jimas. I think you kindly summarized the very important and critical points addressed in the discussions during these 2 days. Thank you very much. Before we completely close out today's session, I would like to ask a favor of all of you in the audience. When this session concludes, you will be presented with a survey. Your feedback is very important for us to improve future sessions. So please take a moment to fill it out. Thank you very much for your cooperation and participation in this event. Thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.